All right, well, welcome everybody. I'm just going to kick us off this morning. My name is Shanti Shoji, Director of Programs at Sasakawa USA. And it's really wonderful to see so many people in person. This is our second hybrid event that we're doing, and we have lots of people online joining us as well, and people still coming in. So we're so honored to have Honorable Iwao Horii with us today. And as you know, today's policy briefing is on the record and is being recorded, as you just heard, by Zoom. And we will be taking those who are joining us online. We will be taking questions from you, so please submit those in the question box, and we will be providing those as they come in, along with questions here in the room. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Dr. Satohiro Akimoto, Chairman and President of Sasakawa Peace Foundation USA. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanti. I am Satohiro Akimoto, President and Chairman of Sasakawa Peace Foundation USA. Welcome to you all. Happy New Year. I am delighted to have Honorable Iwao Horii, member of Japan's Upper House and the Director of International Affairs Division of the Liberal Democratic Party. Historic rise of China is probably the biggest geopolitical and geoeconomic challenge for the free world, at least for the first half of this century. As China becomes richer, stronger, and more confident about its course and the future, China has become more assertive about realizing its national interests and more aggressive about projecting its military and economic power. In short, how to effectively deal with the challenges posed by China, particularly from the viewpoint of maintaining and strengthening liberal world order, as defined by such values as democracy, human rights, rule of law, free enterprise, and transparency, has become a priority foreign and national security focus for the U.S. and Japan. This is truly a timely occasion to have Honorable Horii today. Japan is going through a transformative change in its national security stance. If you sort of, sit back and think about it, despite all the political missteps and the difficulties that the Prime Minister Kishida had, a very low approval rating and a mishandling or missteps with regard to state funeral for former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and also relationship between some LDP politicians and former Unification Church. Prime Minister Kishida and his administration has achieved a lot last year in terms of national security. In March, Japan quickly joined a coalition led by the United States to deter aggression, protect Ukraine from aggression by Russia. It was a rather quick move for Japan, which is not known for such a move, particularly in terms of joining strong economic sanctions against the country with rich natural resources. That move was followed by adaptation of historic economic security promotion legislation. This is historic in a sense that Japan expanded national security concept into economic area, including technology competition. And finally, in December, Japan published revised national security strategy together with the two other related documents. And we all know that U.S. Japan 2+2 is just around the corner, and a summit between Prime Minister Kishida and President Biden is scheduled to occur this Friday. So this is truly a timely occasion to have Honorable Iwao Horii to talk about Japan's new national security strategy. It is truly my pleasure to have Honorable Horii with us today, and Honorable Horii, the floor is yours.
Good morning. My name is Iwao Horii, member of the House of Councillors, and today I am very delighted to have such a great opportunity to see you and to report to you about the significant change of the national security policy of Japan. And I I totally thank Sasakawa USA and President Mr. Dr. Akimoto. First of all, I'd like to report to you about my experience last year. On July 8th, former Prime Minister Abe came to my district for giving a speech toward the people, voters, for supporting a candidate, the upper house election. That's my colleague's election. At that time, he was assassinated, and I was just standing right next to him. So, and I belong to the political faction of former Prime Minister Abe. So, I was just fortunate, and I'm alive, and I'm here. So I feel like I'm have a responsibility to take over anything that he tried to push in terms of the national policy. And so that is why today I'm very honored and glad to be here to discuss. And so last October, new Komeito Party and the LDP both formed the coalition administration in Japan, made the working team for revising 3 national security documents. And I was able to be 6 members of the LDP side, while new Komeito Party consisted of 5 members. So such an 11 members had intense talks preceding the official decision by the government of those 3 documents. Around 15 times talking over 14 hours. And just every time prior to the session, LDP side itself had talk, and other on the other hand, so party side had a talk. So a kind of those intense discussion, I was very grateful for being of a revision process of these 3 documents. And now I just delivered the summary of the National Security Strategy of Japan, which is the highest one among those 3. And first of all, just please look at that paper in the room. The purpose is you can see the international order is now at stake with these challenges. And the second, Japan security environment is as severe and complex as it has ever been since the end of World War II. The boundary between contingency and peacetime, and between military and non-military fine fields are not clear cut. The third, a broad range of security issues, such as in the areas of economy and technology. Japan will harness its comprehensive national power in order to protect its own interests. And those are already well understood by all of you. And the point of the discussion was how we could clearly write the challenge of China. Because in terms of the first national security strategy plan of Japan issued in 2013 by the Abe administration was aimed at the threat mainly of North Korea. And now I would like to show you the details of the explanation about China. In 2013, it is as follows. Such an external stance and military activities by China, coupled with a lack of transparency in its military affairs and security policy, have become an issue of concern to the international community, including Japan. Therefore, the government of Japan needs to pay a careful attention to this situation. So at that time, 10 years ago, the issuance of the national security strategy itself was very meaningful. It never happened before. So that is a great accomplishment of the Abe administration at that time. However, nothing's been significant change even during the past 10 years. The military expenditure of China doubled past 10 years. So now we just described as follows, as you can see on the page 1, China's current external stance, military activities and other activities have become a matter of serious concern for Japan and the international community, and present an unprecedented and the greatest strategic challenge. So of course, in the discussion, how we could, it was one of the main topics that we discussed, how we can describe the challenge of China towards the countries, including Japan and the international community. We just discussed if we should use the word threat or not. However, we just referred the context of the American government's documents and scrutinized. So this time, the greatest strategic challenge, the definition we described, and the new Communist Party agreed that regardless of the description, I think a focal point is that now we show the challenge, the main challenge was coming from China. That is a key point. And based on that premise, then now how we think how we can reinforce the capability of self-defense force. And that is a significant point, I think. As for North Korea, yes, we described. And as for Russia, 10 years ago, not the severe any description in the highest document. Just at that time, just we were pursuing to solve the Northern Territory for island issue at that time with providing the economic cooperation. However, now the things have totally changed. And the second page, please. And the point is of their highest strategy, and the revision of the strategy is to allow the counter-strike capability to the military task, to self-defense force. And it was described as follows. Counter-strike capability fall within the purview of Japan's constitution and international law. They do not change Japan's exclusively defense-oriented policy, and they will be used only when above mentioned 3 new conditions are fulfilled. So the point was how we could understand the interpretation of the counter-strike capabilities while we refer Japan's exclusively defense-oriented policy. And just whether it is contradict or not. Now, our understanding is that totally that is within the form exclusive defense oriented policy. So counter-strike capabilities are the capabilities on which the government expressed its view on February 29, 1956, which stated that under the Constitution, as long as it is deemed that there are no other means to defend against attack by guided missiles and others, to hit the basis of those guided missiles and others is legally within the purview of self-defense and thus permissible. These are also capabilities that the government has chosen not to acquire up to now as a matter of policy decision. However, from the viewpoint of ordinary people, just in Japanese Senshu exclusively defense-oriented policy was thought to be a kind of not to obtain standoff capability or not to obtain the counter-strike capability. So that kind of just we were worried about. We had been worried about that perception by the voters. So we were unable to just provide, just offer the counter-strike capability politically for a long time. However, this time, amazingly, it has been well understood by the citizens because now people are recognizing the real pressure from China, and they are watching carefully what is happening in Ukraine, and so on. So this time, I did not see any sort of demonstration surrounding the Diet building. So compared to 2015 national security legislation time that surrounded by 1,000 of demonstrating people. But totally the situation changed. And so in addition to this counter-strike capabilities, the budget size is going to be doubled by the fiscal year 2027, as pursuing to reach the second 2% of the current GDP. And there is the 5-year budget size is 43 trillion yen. And now, while the past 5 years, 25.5 trillion yen. So now we are very delighted that people recognize, understand the necessity of reinforcing the capability with a double-sized expenditure. So that's what we are grateful. And in addition, we were talking about some more main important topics. First is promoting transfer of defense equipment and technology. So far, Japan made a slight change in terms of the principle of transfer those equipments a few years ago. However, we are acknowledging the fact that we were able to provide was just one case, surveillance radar towards Philippines. And still, in case of Ukraine, so we just provided kind of the helmet and bulletproof vest. But we were unable to give the armed equipments. So it is not efficient for the like-minded countries. So now, because we are thinking of significantly changing the principle. However, it was under discussion between LDP and the Communist Party, and I believe that we still work together for further defining what is okay and what is not okay in terms of the principle of transfer of defense equipment and technology. That is kind of the things that we have to do in the future. And cyber defense capability, especially active cyber defense, must be needed. And this is that point is written. However, active cyber defense render harm, just an intrude to the computers and the systems located in the country, other countries which just provide the attack to Japan. That is a very vague. If we are attacking the other country, or just we are defending. So the definition of active cyber defense is very difficult at this moment, Japan politically. So now we will continue to talk between the LDP and the Communist Party, and we do believe that we should take the effective way to render harmless. So I'm trying my best to promote that avenue. And the third one is that the cooperation and coordination between the self-defense force and the Japan Coast Guard. And now, in the highest national security strategy of Japan, it is written as follows. Furthermore, Japan will consistently strengthen coordination and cooperation between the SDF and the Japan Coast Guard, including control over the Japan Coast Guard by the Minister of Defense in the event of contingency. That means that in the current roles, the Japan Coast Guard belong to under the control of the Minister of Land Transport, not under control of the Minister of Defense. However, the law also regulates that in the case of a contingency or emergency, the Minister of Defense get a hold of the power of the Minister of Transportation, and then the Japan Coast Guard is fully under control of the Minister of Defense. However, due to their past history after World War II, the Japan Coast Guard, even politically itself, wants to be independent. But due to that kind of mood, their joint operation and the joint drill in case of emergency not conducted so well. So now we pointed out that though the two elements are very significant, and so that must be trained jointly, just while they are looking at the emergency cases. Now, Communist Party is passive, that and even some part of LDP, within LDP, some legislators, some right members are not supporting the concept of the Japan Coast Guard should be ordinarily under the control of Ministry of Defense. But then China's Coast Guard now belong to the Ministry of Defense. So now we have to just consider how those two bodies can coordinate effectively while we see the contingency. That is at the point we feel. And lastly, I'd like to just one thing that thanks to this doubled military expenditure, now we expect that the lack of capability of continuing war could be significantly solved by purchasing more bullets, for example. And also, SDF has suffered the old buildings not renovated for a long time due to the limit of the budget size. But now such and such environmental cases would be significantly improved. However, things are going, and China is continuing developing their pressure towards us. So we have to check the effectiveness of the equipment and also integrated efforts with the United States military force. And if there are anything that those are lacking, now we have to revise and the current plan in the future. So this time I have a bit had an experience to talk with uniformed staff executive members about what the avenue can be most effective. Then we just foresee the contingency cases. However, now it is just this time it's a starting point. So we are looking forward to continuing our efforts to improve the content. The lastly, I would like to report to you about my visit to Taiwan late December last month, and I was able to have talks. I went there with my senior members and had talks with President Tai and Vice President Lai and the Foreign Minister, etc. I went to even Kinmen Island. That's the place is the Amoy, and surrounded 270 degrees surrounded by the mainland China, and just 3 miles away from Amoy. And I was able to see the landscape, skyscape of Amoy's buildings. And what I felt that Taiwan's emergency, Taiwan's contingency is Japan's contingency. That was delivered by former Abe, Prime Minister Abe. And that was true, I felt. And the President and the Vice President and Foreign Minister said, okay, they are running the lessons from the Ukraine as well. And of course, they are trying to reinforce their own capability of defense. However, it is totally insufficient on their own. So the only way for protecting the Taiwan Strait peaceful, for protecting Taiwan from their viewpoint is the collaboration and cooperation with the United States and Japan and even Australia. So they asked us the further efforts to reinforce the relations in a variety of areas. So now we promise to commence the 2+2 talking just between the members of the council, members of the diet members, and I'm a director of Foreign Affairs Division, and with director of Defense Affairs Division, that we would go and have talks on a regularly basis. But I hope that the U.S. side will join such talks, and this trilateral talking will be more effective. And in addition, they are eager to join the CPTPP. That would be the most protective way for Taiwan, they believe. This year, the president of CPTPP framework is New Zealand. Next year, Canada. And 2025, I think Australia. And those 3 years, the only possibility for them, they believe, to hop in the CPTPP. Otherwise, in 2026, Vietnam will be a speaker. And so, and then Asian countries will be speakers. So China is always hindering the joining of Taiwan towards CPTPP. So that's why during the 3 year be the very, very important period, not only for Taiwan, but also for the international community. So we will do our best for encouraging and supporting Taiwan to join CPTPP. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for your insightful remarks on changing political and legislative landscape with regard to national security in Japan, partially based on your experience in a committee dealing with FOMETO and defense experts. Please allow me to ask the very first question to open up the floor. All the changes that you talked about, foundation was kind of laid by former Prime Minister Abe, and METI Minister Nishimura gave a talk at the CSIS last week, and I think he mentioned former Prime Minister Abe's name many times, but
5 times.
5 times.
I counted.
Didn't mention Prime Minister Kishida once, and today, of course, you mentioned former Prime Minister Abe leading the way to beef up Japan's security strategy. I think political leadership is very important, and Prime Minister Kishida is not known to be in the same sort of concept with regard to national security as with former Prime Minister Abe. But now that he's in town, meeting with President Biden on Friday, how do you describe Prime Minister Kishida's political leadership in beefing up Japan's national strategy, and also his commitment to U.S. Japan security alliance, and also importance of coordinating concretely with the United States in the military sense, interoperability, joint exercise, C2, in order to achieve what the national security strategy of Japan said, that Japan will harness its comprehensive national power in order to protect its own interests. It is essential for Japan to work with the United States in that respect. So how do you describe Prime Minister Kishida's commitment and where his mind is now that Japan is also hosting G7.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry that there's no free breakfast.
First of all, I as a member of the LDP and as a member of the Diet members, I am very grateful for the leadership of Prime Minister Kishida for this, revising those three important documents for significantly changing the Japanese national security policy. Of course, as I mentioned, I am a member of the faction of Prime Minister Abe, and politically, just is tend to be shown that Kishida's faction and Abe's faction stand contradictory, kind of that. But as for the international policy and defense policy, I'm very grateful for Prime Minister Kishida's decision. When in 2015, National Security Restoration passed the floor. That time, Prime Minister Kishida was a foreign minister. And I believe that he does understand the importance of taking over the concept of Prime Minister Abe, such as revising three national security documents and just promoting free and open Indo-Pacific concept. So now I believe that Japan's foreign policy and defense policy are consistent and some taking over by Prime Minister Kishida. I had an opportunity that the working team members and Prime Minister Kishida had dinner at the end of in late December after it was completed. And I felt that his face and his robust mind to promote that avenue. So I'm confident that incumbent Kishida's administration will take over Abe's administration's policy. However, that's the one point is that the political landscape is as we can see in any countries. There's not still even in Japan that could be changed in the future. No one knows it. So that is the only thing that I'm concerned on. But it should be okay.
Thank you very much. So with that, now I'd like to open up the floor for questions or comments.
Minister Horii, thank you very much for the presentation, and even more thanks to Japan for a remarkably adept management of big change here with the national security strategy, a well-integrated national defense strategy, and a well-integrated midterm defense plan that answers an awful lot of questions. America's got something to envy here. We're familiar with the painful processes we have doing similar things. I'd like to ask a question about under comprehensive national security, maybe broaden the approach a little bit. Not long ago, Japan anticipated that Russia may be a valuable supplier of energy to Japan, and that's off the table now with Ukraine. And I know Japan's talking about efforts to restart a lot of the nuclear power plant structure in Japan. Is this a topic for discussion within the LDP and Nukumeto and within the government in general?
Okay, in terms of the Russia, relations with Russia, we have the right of operating in Sakhalin.
Right.
And as you know, and so now the Japanese government decided that we are fearful of losing the right. And because once we just abandon those rights, then that will be replaced by China
Mhm.
with a penny. So that makes not doesn't make sense for Japan. So for the time being, we invested a lot. So now just trying to keep the acquisition we had there. And however, just in case of the invasion of Ukraine, the Kishida administration adopted the very heavy sanction promptly.
Mhm.
The first Asian country that adopted. So that was became a kind of a trigger to have other nations, not in European countries,
Mhm.
that to adopt the sanction, because that is not just the European countries issue, but that is a threat against all the international community. So Japan has taken such an appropriate approach in terms of the policy against Russia. And as for the restarting the new nuclear power plant, electric power plant, I'm very grateful for the decision by Prime Minister Kishida. It has been aimed at by from the era, since the era of former Prime Minister Abe, but due to the 2011 great earthquake,
Mhm.
then politically it was very difficult. But now, things that the Kishida administration decided to restart it. So that would be a significantly be effective towards the supply of electricity in Japan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brent?
So thank you again for taking the time. I've heard since the summer there was interest in Tokyo of looking at revising the defense guidelines. And when I looked at the documents formally released, I'm not sure I see a real strategic change in the environment. It's the same mostly, though I do see the acknowledgement that China much more forcefully than the past. Is there a legal, a political, or perhaps some other military change in the region that might warrant a serious request to revise the defense guidelines? And if so, what would be the biggest change? The Japanese Constitution, I thought issues were largely addressed last time.
Okay. I think that is because the recognition of the older people, the voters are as you have, because of partly because now we try to be consistent with the Japanese long-time principle of exclusive defense oriented policy, and that is within the Article 9, or that is literally correct, as I explained. So that is in the interpretation of our constitution historically, and that is consistent. However, yes, that is a significant change, but just we are saying, okay, that is consistent, not changing a lot from the viewpoint of the interpretation of constitution. That's why it still looks very soft, I think. But the CounterStrike capability is a significant change.
I see.
That is, I think, the biggest change we've ever had, and we are pursuing. That's nice.
Would it be safe, just to make sure I understand, that the counterstrike and the acquisition of Tomahawk strike missiles is really what's driving a potential revision of the defense guidelines?
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you.
Yes, and I really appreciate that the U.S. side understandable for providing us with hundreds of tomahawks. So that means that Japan, from anywhere in Japan, the Japan's territory, even not only from the Southwest Island, but extremely speaking from Hokkaido, yes, could target any places East China Sea and even South China Sea and other military bases, submarines on the opposition nations. So that is significant deterrence development.
Hi, we have Mr. Ken Weinstein, former president of Hudson.
Councillor Horii, thank you very much. Very informative presentation, and thanks to Sasakawa as well for this event. It's been a remarkable week this week in Japan. You look at the visit to the UK, where there's now a reciprocal access for the first time with a European country. The partnership announced during Prime Minister Kishida's visit to Italy. Obviously, those two countries are now combined with Japan to develop the new next generation strike fighter. You made reference to the challenge of exports and the fact that only the only radar system has been sent to the Philippines. I'm wondering, reading the documents, there's obviously great focus on the need to transform Japan's defense industry. And I'm wondering if you could say something about the export potential aside from the partnerships with the UK and Italy, because Japan has the defense industry in Japan it is nowhere near the capabilities that Japan needs at this stage. And I'm wondering about the depth of the transformation that's necessary, and is there awareness both on the industry side and on the government side as to the measures that are needed, which are it's a Herculean task.
Okay, I may not have an appropriate answer on that, but first of all, I would like you to, what I am trying to point out is that the defense industry in Japan is at stake, and they have had a huge problems because of the lack of the benefit from supporting the self-defense force due to their lack of the demand. Just the demand has come from the self-defense force, just one a segment. But now, so quite a few supply chain companies just gave up just continuing to provide the to supply equipments. That is a problem. But throughout the discussion on this strategy plan, it is very difficult that for the sake of rescuing such companies, we can say, yes, we will ship more equipments towards the foreign countries for the sake of saving those companies, but just for saving and reinforcing our like-minded countries. So on that sense, we are now trying to promote just a transform the equipment. In addition, we are not shifting from the U.S. Industry to other industries such as UK or Italy. Of course, yes, that is about the new F2 fighter jet. Yes, we have had a cooperation with UK industry and Italian industry. However, that is just trying to broaden the capability of receiving the equipments. and from all over the world, from the like-minded countries. So for the sake of that, just cited. However, the main focal point is that the main equipments were continuously from the U.S. and the U.S. alliance, even the equipment alliance with the U.S. will be broadened even in the future. Just integrating the computing system must be necessary. So in the variety of areas, we are looking forward to reinforcing the alliance with U.S. partners, the industries.
Thank you very much. We have some representative from U.S. defense industries. Any comment on the subject matter? No?
Well, you kind of stole me. That was sort of my question, is just to explore your thinking on that, sir. And we appreciate that. I think that there's always a balance between the need for greater capacity of friends and allies, and the time it takes to develop that, and the places that have the expertise to help you develop that. And so it's something that we're all keenly interested in tracking, and I think you covered it well.
Very good. Thank you. Emma.
Thank you, Horii-san, for being here. I've heard that the State Department is calling this Japanuary this month. Yes.
Japan week.
Thanks for being part of that. Clearly, Japan's laid out an incredibly ambitious strategy here. And if you assume that the next couple of months are dedicated to getting the budget through the diet, what to you are the first benchmarks as analysts we should look for coming out of Japan? Is it revising the principles of defense equipment transfer? Is it like, what are the first things that you think we should be looking for as indications of Japan fulfilling this? And if I could, just one other thing in this discussion about sort of Abe driving these changes in Japan, but Kishida actually delivering them in the end. Do you think that there's an element where both the Japanese public and maybe even the region has a little bit more trust in Kishida because he's coming from a more dovish background than Abe, and therefore there's less, fewer protests, as you mentioned, after the announcement of this strategy?
Okay.
Thanks.
I project that the next ordinary night session will be commenced on January 23rd for 150 days. And the first topics will be they're trying to pass the new fiscal year's budget by the end of March. I don't see any obstacles in terms of the national new defense strategy. Politically, otherwise, other political some topics could be aroused and could be manipulated by the opposition parties. So we are just concerned on that point. And as for the Kishida's administration stability, the pace from the people, yes, in terms of the international policy, yes, Prime Minister Kishida gave us the policy that the avenues that former Prime Minister Abe described. And people do know that point. But the politics is different. And now there's some expert pundits and media's saying that the difference between the former Prime Minister Abe's faction, political side, and the Kishida's faction, political side, would be whether we should raise the tax for funding and the double the expenditure for defense, or we could issue more bond for that. So, but I personally feel that there is not a big difference. Just 1 trillion yen. We are talking about just 1 trillion yen. So that could be solved with this for more than the estimated tax revenue and things so on. So, but yes, people or especially the opposition parties love to just pick up such a very minor difference. But we try to make it bigger. So, but that is not a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, you have a question?
Sure. So, Horii-san, thank you so much for your remarks. I wanted to unpack a bit promoting economic security policies, which is one of the 7 sort of implementation pathways. And Japan, of course, has been a leader, whether it's in export controls or kind of tech diplomacy, also the use of infrastructure as a tool of foreign policy. And so would love to hear, do you see more of the same happening kind of under the aegis of the new national security strategy? Do you see new elements to kind of economic security policies being executed? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Economic Security Act passed for and enacted last year, the year before, 2 years ago. However, just in the one important segment remains, that is the security clearance, just surveillance and personal information points. As for the government documents, now we passed the law, and so for government officials and there are even private sector people who are involved in operating and just reaching the government classified documents. They are scrutinized and surveyed under the surveillance. That is a system, but the private sector's security clearance system does not, has not been implemented yet. So due to the lack of that implementation, the now private sector people are sometimes have troubles with coordinating and their advanced information, advanced technology with U.S. expert and so on. So now, just we are thinking of promoting and implementing such a private sector's security clearance system based on the request of Keidanren, the Japanese the private sector's association, and even some labor union private company are requesting to implement that system. So sooner or later, so we will try. Now there are minister whose name is now Ms. Takaichi, who is in charge of that act, is now trying to submit the new law permitting and implementing the private sector's security clearance. But politically, it is not clear if we can pass it in the next ordinary diet session. So still too early to say the expectation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. An important element in terms of economic security is obviously, as you just mentioned, the business community. I see that general public, there's a sea change on the side of the general public in terms of recognizing the importance of national security, importance of preparing for possible contingencies, seeing China as a threat. And even majority of over 50% of Japanese people in a recent poll said that at least we should talk about constitutional revision. It looks like general public is kind of ahead slightly of the business community and the political leaders, but Japanese business interests have lots of operation, frankly speaking, interested in China. How do you describe the state of Japanese business today in terms of balancing this necessity for national security and their business interests, and frankly, also safety of their employees and families in China.
Okay. When I was staying in Taiwan, I went to one very gigantic company, but I was asked not to tell to the public. But yes, we visited a huge company in Taiwan, and they have
Japanese.
no, not the Taiwan.
Yeah.
And they were very. I felt that they were very shrewd and very keen how they could manage the business in mainland China and how they could live with minimum cost quickly once the contingency happens in the Taiwan Strait. But that still they have they are enjoying a huge benefit from gigantic market of mainland China. So, but still they are just calculating how they could leave China quickly. So that's the way it is. I think even in Japan, yes, there are business community tend to be more trying to be more friendly with China, and just there just kind of concerned about their aggravated fighting force of the government side. However, that's a very minor experience in my district. Assembly line company faced a very big loss in China because okay, we decided to leave China, but they had to leave everything, even the patent, the technology, and the equipment. So that they feel like it is very, now they're becoming the move, the feeling among the business community, especially even there are very small companies based in my district, very rural areas, just invested China, very risky. So for the consumer related company could maintain their activities there, such as just selling toilet papers and the clothing and things so on. However, now eventually I believe that the risk will become apparent for assembly line makers. So yeah, but we do not just promote to leave. It depends on each private company's decision. However, just we are providing information about the current China things. And now 100,000 Japanese people are living there and are staying there. And once the emergency happens, then we have to consider to rescue and have them return to Japan safely. And 25,000 Japanese citizens live in Taiwan as well. So we have to take care of them. So that's a big challenge for the government side. So now we are just in, we will give our concern on those points to even the private business community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isozaki. You've been very patient.
Thank you, Horii sensei. ありがとうございます。I think this is arguably this most fundamental change from the Japanese post-World War II defense policy. And I want to hear your comments or any interesting stories behind the scenes, if you can. But organizational part, the one is the establishment of the permanent joint headquarters. The second is the establishment of space and air self-defense force in the maybe next 5 to 10 minutes.
Or is it,
航空宇宙自衛隊
うん
and 常設統合司令部。
統合司令部なん英語でなん
Joint Command.
ジョイントコマンド。
There is also a question about Japanese legislative effort to further establish further advance joint command structure by Mr. Ryan Croker.
Okay, joint command is totally necessary, and it has been talked about for years for improving the capability of command within the SDF. And now I'm very glad that that has been referred in the 3 documents. And yes, it'll be and it happened with the 5 years. And as for the space domains, now Japan plans to have 50 satellites, I think, within 5 years, approximately 50 satellites. That is our plan. And such an constellation capability will be indispensable for improving capability of regions. And also integration, the joint command and the satellite constellation are linked to the integrated operation with allied country, the U.S. So now I visited in the PACOM twice this year, the other day, last week, and last year. So they always said use the word integration, and so that is necessary for our system. So now we will, as a political side, that we will support to promote that avenue.
Thank you very much. One of our advisors, Admiral Philip Davidson, famously described the possibility of Taiwan contingency within 6 years. And you mentioned 5 years, but do you think there is enough sense of urgency on the side of Japanese lawmakers to deal with current geopolitical situations surrounding Taiwan Strait?
I'm not an expert on that point, but yes, what I can say, or what the Japanese politician should think of, is that we have to prepare on the premise that such a contingency in Taiwan Strait might happen within 6 years. That is a very, very important point. So time is limited. So now the decision must be done now. That is why just starting with the revision of those 3 documents, and then continuously we have to do a lot more. In terms of their foreign policies, then, of course, they are deepened in their alliance with the allied country, the U.S. is #1 priority. And in addition, the reinforcing the cooperation with like-minded countries, very important. So far in Japan, acquisition and the cross-serving agreement, AXA, so-called AXA, has concluded with, of course, the US and Australia, UK, Canada, France, and India. And that's a good start with the relation with India. And in terms of the RAA, reciprocal access agreement, that is about the AXA, which is a kind of an equivalent of U.S. Japan status of forces agreement so far. Now we already concluded with Australia, and now just deciding to sign. Yeah, so we are in the process of signing with the UK. Now, now we have to just find out the appropriate word above the like-minded countries. So allied country is in the US. Then now that Australia and the UK is going up to be the top of the like-minded countries. So I'm not sure how I can describe those countries.
Thank you very much. Mark, you have a last question.
Sure. Horii Sensei, thank you so much for doing this. Wondering if you could talk about South Korea. I guess the provocative way to ask the question would be, is South Korea included in the like-minded countries? The new security posture it's going to envision. Obviously things are better now over the last year since the Yoon government came into place. But I'm wondering what the climate is within the LDP for supporting, really trying to push Japan-South Korea relations to an even new level. We have a new Indo-Pacific strategy from the Yoon government. They've indicates that they want to do more in the region, not just on cooperation with North Korea. Okay. So what's the atmosphere within the LDP on supporting improved Japan-South Korea relations?
Okay. Within the LDP member side, perception on new Yoon government totally change significantly towards the better one. It is changing. It is changing. Not fully changed yet because of some very difficult issue still remains. Just raised by in our perception, raised by the Korean side, especially by the former administration of the Republic ROK. However, the ROK is like-minded countries, and for the stability and the peace of our region, the Japan, U.S., and the ROK trilateral relationship is indispensable from the military point of view, and just for tolerating their activities of North Korea as well, and trying to get a hold of our side with the alliance of the U.S. against China. South Korea sometimes has to be China's side due to their various reasons, economically, and they are very weak, very weak compared to Japan in terms of the pressure, military pressure from the China side. So that is a very important like-minded country for Japan. So I am pursuing to improve the relations, even the bilateral relations, while we consistently stand on the policy in terms of bilateral issues. So I'll try my best.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Horii, for straightforward discussion on complicated issues. Certainly demonstrated your mastery of major issues, and we really appreciated your presence here at the Sasakawa Peace Foundation USA. When I've known you for a number of years, and I consider you as trusted friends for the reason of your honesty, accountability, and transparency. And you mentioned unfortunate, tragic assassination of former Prime Minister Abe. On that day, I noticed that while not a police, prefectural police, was very slow in reacting to the incident, even releasing information on what they're going to do next and that kind of thing. But despite the fact that you must be shocked that you're standing very close to Prime Minister Abe when that happened. But as a number 2 of LDP NARA headquarters, you quickly organized a press conference and talked about difficult situation with honesty, accountability, and transparency. So I have a lot of respect for you and hope that you would come back to Sasakawa Peace Foundation USA and have a further straightforward discussion on the important issues between Japan and the United States. If you could join me in thanking Honorable Horii being with us, I really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.